Okay, thank you everyone for attending today. This is the virtual real estate and financial planning webinar with Carla Nee and Jesse Green. Want to let you know that we are recording this. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat and we'll try to answer all your questions. Just a little bit about us. My name is Carla Nee. I work with Jack Conway Company out of Situate, Massachusetts. I do work nationally and globally. You can reach me on pretty much any social media platform at Realtor Carla Nee. Feel free to email me, head to my website. There's my email address. If you're on Clubhouse, my handle is just at Carla Nee. Jesse, you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Carla. So I'm Jesse Green. I'm a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual out of the Northern New England network. I could work with anybody within the United States. All 50 states, I'm able to work with people on whether it's investments or on security kind of products, or when it comes to things like estate planning, or in this particular case, I work with a lot of real estate investors. So I try to position people really well to build for their future through real estate, whether it's through financial freedom through real estate or for retirement planning. Many different types of real estate investing is involved. So, and that's how you and I kind of got connected, Carla.
Yeah, definitely. Little fun fact, Jesse and I are also graduates of Mass Maritime Academy, so we also have that in common. Okay, so Jesse's going to take us through some stuff. And I might chime in, ask him a couple real estate questions from my end.
Great, yeah. So the first thing we're going to talk about is financial freedom through real estate investment. Financial freedom can be defined in a few different ways. The way in which I talk about it is financial freedom through having enough residual income and cash flowing real estate that you now have the option to not have to work a traditional job. So, right now, if you look at things based off cash flow, what you would do is you would take everything that you end up having to spend money on every single month, between a mortgage, car payments, groceries, everything, all the way from the most necessary spending to the things that are more discretionary, how often you go out to eat, things like that, and come up with a number of how much money you spend in any given month. And you've reached financial freedom when you now have an income stream that is residual in the form of real estate, whether that's from rents or a lease or whatever it may be. It could be vacation rents. There's a lot of different options out there. But when that income is equal to the number that makes your life run, you're then able to not have to work a traditional job anymore to be bringing in the income to pay for those parts of your life. So the goal, if you're going to be focusing on real estate investment for that purpose, is to acquire enough real estate investment that has a good enough profit each month. Of course, you're going to have a mortgage when you have that real estate. So if you do it through rental property and you have a mortgage that's $1,500 a month, but you have 3 units and you rent out each unit for $900 a month, right? You're now bringing in $2,700 a month. So that positively cash flows $1,200. You have $2,700 in rental income, $1,500 going out with a mortgage. So you'd be able to apply that $1,200 towards your monthly lifestyle cost. Once you have that number where your monthly rental incomes are equal to that of your monthly lifestyle costs, you're cash flow neutral and you're financially free. So I have a lot of clients who are very interested in obtaining financial freedom in that way. So I do what I can to help position them to be able to be in a position to invest in real estate. Now, where you come in, Carla, is you end up helping people identify what is an actually good real estate investment. That's not so much where I come in. I help just position them to be able to have the option to do that. But to actually have the know-how to know which real estate property people should be getting for the purpose of investment, that's going to be determined based off a lot of things, such as what's the real estate strategy going to be. You can buy and hold, you can flip a property, you can just rent it out. You can be looking for something that's turnkey to rent out, that's very rare. So there's lots of different things that would go into that sort of decision making.
So my role in that would be going through the comparisons, comparing the prices of properties that have sold and what the client should be paying for that property. Just to clarify the difference in our roles there. Let's see, real estate in an integrated retirement plan. Now, Jesse, this is all of you.
Yeah. So this year is going to be different from person to person. For one thing, how much money does somebody need in retirement? There's no right or wrong answer. That's going to be based off of what sort of lifestyle somebody wants to live in retirement. It's also going to be based off other things like, do they have extenuating circumstances in their life that's going to cause their retirement to be more expensive, whether it's healthcare for themselves, healthcare for a very elderly parent, maybe they have a child with special needs, maybe they bought their forever home when they were 55, so they still have a mortgage to pay off and they're not downsizing. Lots of different things go into that. But once we know what somebody needs in terms of income, we have more traditional retirement plans like 401ks, potential pensions, and things like that. But then you also have potential real estate investment that they've done previously. So is this a cash flowing property? Is this something that they've been able to rent out for positive cash flow? Is this something, for people who are from our local area, they may be familiar with Hampton Beach. A lot of people know about Hampton Beach, right? And for about 15 weeks every summer, a lot of people rent out their property for 1 week at a time for 15 weeks. And then a lot of times those properties sit empty for the rest of the year. And oftentimes those 15 weeks of renting it out are going to provide enough rental income so that it doesn't cost them anything to have the property, but it's not going to make them any money either. So how would that make sense? Well, that would make sense because when you buy and you hold real estate, not only is the real estate value going to go up over time, so it's just like a investment, like putting money into the financial market, but it's also going to be gaining equity with the small amount of rental income you take in just those 15 weeks. So real estate in an integrated retirement plan, it can look like having cash flow to help offset your need for monthly income, much like we were talking about with financial freedom previously. Or we could talk about now having a lot of equity in different types of real estate and being able to use that equity to be able to fund retirement, whether that's done through low interest loans or whether that's done through the sale of the property. But tax efficiencies are something that gets taken into account for those sort of things as well.
Now, right now in today's market, the home equity rate has skyrocketed. You say buy and hold. Can you clarify what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So a buy and hold strategy, it's a lot like any sort of stock that you may buy or a mutual fund, and real estate works the same way. You buy a property and maybe it's worth $500,000. Let's say for the sake of a round number, it's worth $500,000. Well, over time, real estate prices are going to fluctuate. They're going to go up, they're going to go down, but generally speaking, real estate prices always go up over time. There are rare instances where a specific area, you could see all the real estate lose value because something happens in that particular area that would change it. But that is generally pretty rare. What you're generally going to see is real estate going up over time in terms of value. So, most recently, during the pandemic, we've seen the prices of real estate skyrocket. Now, a lot of that has to do with the fact that inventory is very low, meaning that not many people are selling their house right now. Whether that's because they don't want people potentially with coronavirus coming into their home at a open house or viewing the house, or maybe because things are so uncertain they don't want to move during this time. Not many people are selling. Having said that, they're trying to incentivize money being moved around the economy. So they've really lowered the interest rates so that it makes more sense for people to be able to buy. So the really low interest rates are making people want to buy, but there's not that many houses to buy. So the laws of supply and demand are at work here. It's driving the prices way, way up. Now, because of that, there is a little bit of a bubble, and we may end up seeing prices drop. But even if it does drop, it's only going to drop for a little while. It will eventually, the demand will go back up, even as the supply levels out. And we're going to end up seeing the price of real estate catch back up to where it was and even surpass that. Over time, that's going to happen. So just like when you hold on to a mutual fund, sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. Over the course of time, though, you give it enough time, it's definitely going to go up. It's the same thing with real estate. So when you buy and you hold real estate, your strategy is to let enough time pass that you're going to naturally gain equity just from the value of the property going up.
Right, and you're spot on with what the economists are saying, as far as, we do have those low interest rates, and we do have, I'm going to call it a listings shortage. We do have an inventory shortage right now, and they are expecting the prices to just keep increasing, and the mortgage rates are going to remain pretty steady right now around that 3%.
Yeah,
So,
it ends up being that the supply ends up going up. The prices will just keep going up and up as long as people are willing to buy.
right.
All right, so a little bit more with the real estate and integrated retirement plan, right? So when it comes time to be able to use real estate for retirement purposes, there's a few different sort of things that you can do. All right. Hopefully, real estate's not your only investment. Hopefully, you're well diversified by having money in the um, in the stock market as well, and hopefully, you've even been so fortunate to be able to incorporate something like whole life insurance as well because it's so tax efficient, or at least a Roth IRA or Roth 401k if you're so fortunate to have access to that sort of thing. Um, Taxes can be burdensome when it comes to real estate. Many times, people with um, large estates, after they pass, their kids end up having a bill of 40% of the value of somebody's estate um, to have to pay within 180 days. And what that oftentimes ends up resulting in is a fire sale of everything that you built during your lifetime. So um, being able to, if you're going to end up keeping the real estate, being able to put that into a trust and making it so it's a little bit more tax sheltered, and having life insurance that kind of goes hand in hand with the real estate values to offset the value would allow your kids to be able to use that death benefit that is not considered part of your estate. They'll receive it on a tax-free basis and be able to pay those estate taxes to the federal and state government to be able to keep that real estate, be able to keep it in the family, so to speak, so that whether it's a real estate business, it's income that you receive from real estate, or if it's simply that it's something that you want to keep in your family for generations due to something as simple as nostalgia, you're able to do that. So real estate in an integrated retirement plan, whether you're using it for buying and holding and then selling, or taking out a home equity line of credit or whatever it is, or if you're going to use it simply for the cash flow and you want to keep that going generation to generation, whatever it is, it's important to, in an integrated retirement plan, not only pairing it with the right market correlated assets, but also being able to tax shelter it as well as you possibly can.
Okay, so do you, is there a difference between putting the properties into a trust tax-wise than just keeping it as a standard purchase, standard property?
Yes.
I'm not sure how to word that.
Sure. Yeah. So when you're putting things into, there's a couple different types of trusts that you could be putting into, but depending on how you structure it, you can structure it in a way in which a certain percentage of your estate ends up not being counted as a part of your estate, as long as it stays within the trust. Okay. Now, if the trust is for, for your kids in general, so you end up having, if you have 3 kids and you have 3 people who are have access to the trust, all right, then the trust itself is the estate. It's not so much you. So you no longer own it, legally speaking, as opposed to the trust actually being kind of the
Okay.
owner. So that makes it so that the amount of money that the kids need to come up with within 6 months of your death in order to retain the property, it reduces the amount. And if you couple it with real estate, or with life insurance that's correlated with the price of the real estate, you're going to be able to use that life insurance tax-free benefit. Your kids will be able to use it for the purpose of paying off those estate taxes and making it so that life insurance, whereas if you have life insurance not in a trust, that would be considered part of your estate. And then, so if you had $10 million in life insurance and a $30 million estate, that would now be considered a $40 million estate. Whereas if you have a $30 million estate with $10 million of life insurance within the trust, it'll still just be a $30 million estate, but you'll have $10 million of benefit that comes in for somebody to be able to use it to pay off the taxes. When it comes to real estate, that's going to be the number one thing, because real estate's not liquid, right? You can't just extract cash. You can in the form of a home equity line of credit. You could do it in the form of loans against the real estate. But to get a loan to pay taxes, that's usually not the most favorable thing. And what people tend to do in that situation is sell the real estate. So if you want the real estate to go from one generation to the next, it's important that you do estate planning around it to make it part of a trust. That way, your kids are not going to have nearly as much of a tax burden.
Right. And one thing that I have found in my personal life, that the benefit of having a trust in real estate is you can avoid all that time in probate. And so the longer that a property is in probate, the more money you're ultimately spending.
Yes.
So the trust will keep the property out of probate, thus saving you more money.
Yep, absolutely. Especially if the person who's executing the trust, they're going to be privy to this prior, so it's going to make it so they're going to be able to take care of things in a very efficient way and ultimately save money.
Right.
Okay, so first-time home buyers. When it comes to real estate investment, it's not very common for people to use a first-time home buyer's loan. First-time home buyer programs change from state to state. I know that in the state that I'm in, New Hampshire, it's a 3% down or 3.5% down payment for the loan. And as long as you occupy one unit within the property, so if you bought a 7-unit property and you occupied one of the units, you would still be able to use a first-time home buyer's loan to be able to get started with real estate investment. Not everybody's in a position to do that. I know for me, if I were to get started right now, I'm married and I got 2 kids, one on the way. So it would be pretty impractical for me to move my family into like a triplex and then have to be a landlord for my two neighbors and things like that. It's not something that we really want to do, but I have a very good friend who is single. He has cash that he wanted to be able to use for getting into real estate investment. And he found 4 units down in a very vacation uh, a vacation destination for people. And so what he did was he bought all 4 units with the first time home buyers. He only had to put down 3%. So he did not have to come up with nearly as much cash. He's occupying one of the units and he's going to be renting out the rest of the units. So that's something that he was able to utilize. And that's something that people who are looking to get started and who have never bought a home before could utilize without having to come up with a 20% down payment, which oftentimes that amount of money will keep a lot of people from being able to get started with real estate.
Mm. Oh, this one's exciting.
Yes, yeah, this one is something that if anybody's familiar with bigger pockets, they probably heard before. It's called the Burr method. It was coined by Brandon Turner of the Bigger Pockets podcast. This is the method that I think is most efficient for people who are just getting started with real estate investing to be building up a good cash flowing real estate portfolio. So this is something that what you're going to want to do is you're going to buy a property. And that's what the B stands for here. And then you're going to rehab it. Now, when it comes to rehabbing, we're not going to want to do a we're not going to want to buy properties that need a lot of work. Okay, you're going to want to get a property that's in pretty good shape, but maybe the countertops and cabinets are dated. Maybe the tile in the bathroom looks a little old, or maybe it's stained. So rehabbing it's maybe taking a smaller amount of money and maybe doing some projects that you're capable of doing your own with some YouTube videos and a few trips to Home Depot, right? And maybe putting in some new backsplash, maybe doing a new countertop, things that renters, when they come and they walk through the property to say, do I want to rent this place? Is going to pop out to them. They're going to go, oh my goodness, it's brand new backsplash. It's, it seems like such a small thing, but people look at it and they really love it, right? So you buy the place and you rehab it with those nice things that are going to drive up the rent, because a lot of people are going to want to rent the place with the brand new countertops, right? And then what you do is you go ahead and rent it out. And you're renting it out, you're going to be getting a little bit of positive cash flow. Hopefully, you're going to be getting a lot of positive cash flow. If it's a place that you're able to rent it out for much more than your mortgage, then you're going to be gaining quite a bit of money out of it each month, potentially $500, $600, $700. But whatever that positive cash flow is, that's really the name of the game. That's what you're after. So you go ahead, you buy a place, you rehab it, you rent it out. Then after about a year of having it, you're gonna have some equity in the home from having paid down the mortgage for a year. You're also going to be having some equity, maybe over the course of like this past year. People who bought a home at the beginning of 2020, they're going to have a bunch of equity in it just from the price naturally going up, kind of like we talked about buying and holding. Most years it's not that dramatic of a difference, but you're going to get a little bit of equity in that way as well. So what you do is you refinance it, and you do a refinance cash out. So refinance cash out, for those of you who don't know, it's being able to take out in cash the difference between what the property's worth and how much you owe. So if you owe 320,000 and the property's valued at 380,000, you're going to be able to take out $60,000 in cash. Your mortgage will now be for 380,000, but you're going to be able to use that $60,000 to repeat the process with another property. So you buy, you rehab, you rent out, you refinance cash out, and then you repeat the process. And as you do that over the course of years, you're going to end up with 7, 8, 9, 10 different real estate properties, and that's going to be the most efficient way to build up a portfolio starting from nothing. There's an entire book about this method written by Brandon Turner. I would recommend looking at the Ultimate Real Estate Investing Guide by Brandon Turner. And for anybody to check out the Bigger Pockets podcast, they talk about this method a lot. It's helped a lot of people.
I belong to a Facebook group, and there are a lot of people that do this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so excited when they cash out. They always post a picture of their check. They're just jumping up and down. They just swear by this method.
Yeah, I mean, people will go from never having had, 5 figures in their bank at one time, and maybe they did get their first property through first-time home buyers, like we talked about in the last slide, right? And they only had to come up with 3.5%, and maybe their property was less than $200,000, so they really got in for not that much. And then they apply this method, and all of a sudden they have 3, 4 properties, and they're getting a positive cash flow of $2,000, $3,000 a month, and they're like, oh my goodness, look at this life that I've been able to create just from some of these simple strategies. It's a really exciting thing.
Yeah, it really is. They get so excited, and it makes me excited because I'm in the industry, and so are you.
Yeah.
So is this a method that you can kind of coach your clients through?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a method that you can coach clients through. I think that the people who are the most important to that is going to be the real estate agent themselves. All right. Also, if you're not willing or able to do that little rehab work yourself, having a friend who's a contractor, or a friend of a friend, or somebody who understands what you're trying to accomplish and know that you're not trying to put a lot of money into a property, you're just trying to find the most efficient way to raise the rent value. You could put a little team in place. So people like yourself, Carla, you understand what the strategy is. So you would be able to look for properties that are very specifically able to fit well to this strategy. You would have to do the same with the contractor. And there's some people also at Bigger Pockets. There's a man named David Green. And what he does is he does this method, but he does it in cities in the Midwest. The only thing about David is that he lives in LA. So how does he do that? Well, he contacts people of like mind in those cities in the Midwest, and he talks to them, educates them on what he's looking for. Because of that, he has a real estate agent, a contractor, and a property manager that work together and go ahead, and they just do the process essentially for him. He sells the sign and everything, but he has full portfolios of properties in the Midwest that he's never seen in person, because he's been able to just put the right team members in place. So this is something that can be coached, absolutely. But beyond that, this is something that if everybody's on the same page, this is something that can be very methodical.
Yeah, I actually have that. I have that gentleman's book, the last one you just mentioned. I haven't read it yet, but I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention building the team.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the first step in the process would be contacting a real estate agent, because we are the people who know the best contractors.
Mm-hmm.
People come to us to find their contractors because we know which ones are worthwhile.
Well, not only that, but if you're going to end up doing the last part of this method, which is to repeat and do this over and over again, you need somebody who's trusted to be able to help you get through these processes. And having a really good buyer's real estate agent is, it's absolutely priceless. It costs you no money, because the person selling, that was going to be the whole commission anyway, right? So it doesn't actually cost you any money to have a buyer's real estate agent. And then beyond that, it's the level of expertise and the amount of headaches that they can save you, and having to deal with contingencies through the buying process and things like that. It's absolutely essential.
Yeah. I'm just so excited we're talking about this because I've never actually had a conversation with anybody who has done it before and knows a lot about it. So I'm really excited that you were able to explain that to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do it. Yeah, I have a very close friend who has been successful with doing this process 5 times over already in just the past few years. Again, at Hampton Beach. I'm pretty close to Hampton Beach, in case you
Hmm.
can tell. It's a very popular vacation destination. If anybody hasn't heard of it, for it's more of an it's got nightlife. It's more of like an
Yeah.
adult, don't bring the kids type of place. But a lot of people bring the kids because it is the beach. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things to do. But there's a lot of opportunity for people to make some money down there.
Right. Yeah. Hampton Beach is beautiful and it is full of nightlife. You guys have a casino there, right? Right across from the beach.
Yeah, so we have two casinos. They're smaller, but two casinos, and then a concert place called the Casino. Um, and that's we've had a lot of big names there. You know, we have Godsmack comes through. We've had
Mm.
some pro boxing matches. Mickey Ward fought there. Um, we've had a lot of really popular shows, and um, we have some the biggest open roof beach bar north of Florida on the East Coast. So I guess that's kind of our little claim to fame, the little seacoast in New Hampshire. But yeah, a lot of really good opportunities for making money in real estate. A lot of property development going on, things like
Mm.
that. All right. So the infinite banking concept, this is a really cool thing too. And most people don't really know a ton about this. Now, there's two different ways in which you can do the infinite banking concept. Um, I would say that one of them is a lot better than the other, but it isn't always a fit for people. So the way in which I prefer to see the infinite banking concept done is through what's called whole life insurance. Um, for people who don't know what whole life insurance is, people know what term life insurance is, which is where you buy life insurance and you pay money to the life insurance company every month. And if you happen to die within the term that you agree upon with the life insurance company, a lot of times it's 20 or 30 years, right? Then your beneficiary gets a payout. It's a lot like renting a home because you'll pay into it and pay into it and pay into it. And if at the end of 30 years you haven't died, and it's like you've rented, you have to move out now, you don't own the home, right? You don't get any of your money back, whereas whole life insurance is a lot like buying a home, right? You pay into it for a certain period of time, but then you own it, all right? You have it forever. And the reason why you might do that in the way that this works with the infinite banking concept, and this is a little bit of a complicated thing, so I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can, but it's very tax efficient. It's taxed um, the money that you make from a whole life insurance policy, which you do get a dividend paid out to you based off the profits of the whole life insurance company. That dividend that goes into your cash value portion of your life insurance, that's going to be taxed the same way a Roth IRA is taxed versus a traditional IRA. So you're going to be paying taxes on it today, which I'm betting that today is going to be a lower tax climate than it will be in the future. If we look at the national debt is going up and up and up. So we can probably expect taxes to go up. And then if you're going to be doing a bunch of real estate investment, that means that your future net worth is going to be higher and your future income is going to be higher than today's. So because of the progressive tax, the income tax, we're going to be paying more money in the future for taxes. So you want to pay taxes today. Um, so the dividends that get put into your cash value for the whole life insurance is going to be paid to you from the life insurance company on a tax-free basis. You will have already paid the taxes for the money that you put into the policy. So that's why it's so advantageous to do the infinite banking concept through whole life insurance as opposed to the other way around, which I'll end up explaining a little bit. But what you're able to do Let's take the dividends as they build up in your whole life insurance portfolio, and you're able to borrow against it. And you can borrow against it in multiple ways. One way is with a very low interest loan from a bank, and that's more of a traditional loan that you pay back on a monthly basis. And then the other thing that you can do is take out a line of credit against your dividends in the whole life insurance portfolio. That line of credit is something that you can pay back. You don't have to pay it back. Interest will build on it. But at the same time, you never took money out of the policy. So it's going to continue to compound, and you're going to end up getting more and more money available to you to be able to borrow against yourself, essentially. And that's going to go up each and every single year. So every single year, more and more money is going to become available to you to borrow essentially against your own life. And someday you will die, right? Whether that's 20 years from now or 50 years from now or 3 years from now. None of us know, but because of that, the life insurance will always pay back the loan. So you have the option of whether or not you want to pay it back or not. And it'll continue to go up every year so that if you do exhaust the line of credit, putting money into real estate, the very next year, more money is going to become available to you. The reason why that's so important is because what people oftentimes don't realize is that you can only get a traditional mortgage so many times when you're getting real estate investment, right? A bank is only going to give you a mortgage 2, 3, or 4 times. And then after you own like 4 properties, they start to see it as you having a lot of your assets in one place. And they don't like that risk. You know, if the real estate market were to take a complete 180 and you ended up kind of upside down, so that you weren't able to pay back your mortgages, they don't want to be left holding the bag. So you need to start finding other ways of creating the opportunity to borrow money for the purpose of real estate investing, because buying cash is usually not practical for people. So that's where this infinite banking concept comes in as it pertains to whole life insurance. The other way in which you could have this infinite banking concept come into effect is doing the same thing with a mutual fund, right? If you have money in mutual funds and then you take out loans against a mutual fund in the form of a line of credit, you could do that. It is far less tax efficient because when you realize the gain on the mutual fund, you're going to have either long-term or short-term capital gains tax, depending on how the fund is allocated, which is anywhere from 15 to 20%. So it's much less tax efficient. That's why I find it to be somewhat inferior. But the one way in which it is a much better fit for people is that you're able to have access to the money a lot quicker, whereas the whole life insurance needs a little lead time to build up. So it needs like 5 or 6 years to build up, whereas the mutual fund can be done much quicker than that. So in terms of tax efficiencies, the whole life insurance is far superior. That's a pretty complicated concept. So Carla, any questions that you think might help simplify or clarify anything? Oh, you're on mute, Carla.
My kids have Alexa going in the background. So basically that's a way to free up cash flow for maybe more investments.
Yeah, absolutely. So what it's going to do is it's going to be a much more efficient way to gain more money than saving. You know, people can save money very aggressively into a savings account, but even if it's a money market account, the interest rate on the savings account is going to be less than 1%. It's almost non-existent. It doesn't even keep up with inflation. Whereas in a mutual fund or with whole life insurance, you're going to get a much superior return. With mutual funds, if you have one that's allocated a little bit more aggressively, over time, your return is going to be much greater, but it's going to be much more volatile too. So some years it might be up quite a bit, but other years it might be down quite a bit. And the thing is if you could have a really good real estate investment opportunity, but you look and your accounts are down, it's almost like, do I really want to take the money out of that account? Now, if you're taking it in terms of a line of credit, then that kind of eliminates that need a little bit. Now, same thing with the whole life insurance, because whole life insurance always goes up. It's not volatile at all. It's very safe. The return is probably going to be smaller than what you would get in a mutual fund, but some of that is offset with the fact that it's so tax efficient and that it never goes down. It's always guaranteed to go up, usually at a rate of about 5%.
Interesting.
Much more efficient way to save than just putting money into a savings account or money market account.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a real eye opener.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people, they're like, yeah, I'm going to save my money, but it's always better to have money working for you, going out. Robert Kiyosaki, who, if people are listening to this, there's a good chance that they've probably read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki, he's a very brilliant guy, wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which, really opened my eyes when I first read it and just changed the way that I thought about money. If anybody hasn't read that book, I definitely suggest people read it. Even if they only read the first 100 pages, it will change the way that you look at the world and the way that you look at money. But Robert Kiyosaki, he always says that his money, he imagines being an army. Every dollar is an individual soldier. And he sends his money out in the world to go capture other soldiers, right? And bring them back home to him. So that he has a bigger army, right? That's what you want to do as you're saving. You don't want to have money in savings. It's losing value every single day as inflation outpaces whatever interest rate you could possibly be getting. If you have it in a checking account, it's not getting any interest. So what you want to do is you want to put that money that you're going to use for the real estate investment into an asset. Now, you probably want to put it in a somewhat safer asset. That way it doesn't lose value when you need it to gain value. But whether it's a mutual fund or whole life insurance, it's going to be more efficient than saving it in a traditional savings account.
I really like I forget what his name is, the Rich Dad Poor Dad author.
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki.
He really makes that book it's really personable.
Oh yeah.
Because he has his father, and then he has the father-like figure that he refers to.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's a lot of people have that in their lives, and it's just the way he compares the two. It's just really, I just really like it. It's really personable.
Yeah. It's just the way that he differentiates them. One father says, I can't afford that. The other one says, how can I afford that? Just two very big differences that just shows how two men living on the same island in Hawaii can have such a different outlook on life and how it can lead them to such different places in their lives.
Right.
All right. So getting creative with real estate investment, right? There's a lot of really creative ways in which you can end up getting into the game. All right. The thing that usually keeps people from getting into the game is that they think that it is just too hard for them. All right. It's not the case. Anybody can go and they can do this. There's people who are active duty military making $19,000 a year who get started with some of these very simple strategies. One of which is called house hacking. We kind of talked a little bit about this earlier with the first-time home buyers. It's very similar, but again, I have another friend, really good guy, but he's not like the smartest guy in the world or anything. And he's a bank teller. He works for TD Bank, and he's a bank teller. And he makes a little bit of money. He doesn't make a lot. He makes like $35,000 a year or something like that. But he has a really good lifestyle. And the reason why is because he bought a house, and it was a 3-bedroom with a finished basement. He occupies the master bedroom. He rents one bedroom out to his brother. He rents the other bedroom out to his ex-girlfriend's brother. And then he rents the basement out to another friend that he works with. And because he charges them enough each that it covers his mortgage, his heat, his electric, and when I say his heat, I mean his propane, right? So he charges them enough to cover all that. He lives there for free while gaining equity in it every year. Now, he does have to deal with roommates. Okay. So it's not for everybody. Again, this isn't going to be a strategy that somebody with a family of four is going to necessarily put into play, but you can get really creative. And for a single person, it's a great way to start. Being able to house hack, gaining the equity in the home while living there for free. That's a really creative way. And there's lots and lots of other solutions just like that people can apply if only they're willing to learn. And I think that a great resource, I brought it up a couple of times, is the Bigger Pockets podcast, right? They have a podcast, they got multiple books, they have a blog, they have a social media type website. It's almost like a Facebook or LinkedIn specifically for real estate investors. It's very cool. I would definitely be looking into that. You're going to find out all sorts of creative ways in which you can apply real estate investment. One of the things we never even talked about that I would love to get into someday is storage units, right? Being able to have storage units on your own property. I mean, I know it because I moved in 2017, and about 4 months ago, I finally emptied out my storage unit. It's a cash cow. People don't empty those things, right? It's a great thing to have. So there's lots of really cool and creative things people can do if only they're willing to just kind of learn and use their imagination, right? But one place to really be able to go do that, Bigger Pockets. I couldn't recommend it enough to people.
I do frequent their website every once in a while. I'll take a look and see what they have going on there.
Yeah, it's really cool. They got all sorts of really cool podcasts with special guests. They got everywhere from people who they do real estate on a completely full-time basis, people that only do commercial real estate, people who only do storage units. There's a woman who's a professional poker player who is also from New Hampshire that they've had on a couple times, and she does real estate on the side. And she just talks about the strategies that she used and creative ways in which she was able to get deals to work. And it's really a very cool thing.
Oh, and I guess we're done.
All right.
Well,
I
thank
had
you
fun.
so much. I did too. This was great.
Good.
We'll have to come up with another topic.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I'd love to do that. I think it's great that you're trying to be able to pass on some of this knowledge for people to go out there and get their feet wet, and I'm really glad to be able to do that. I have a real passion for real estate investing, so thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you, Jesse.